So many conversations about the definition of your video: 4K, 1080p, 8K, 12K, 6K, 2.7K, doing it at 60 frames, doing it at 30 frames, doing it at 24 frames a second. So many conversations, but yet one of the most important conversations, nobody ever really talks about that. What's happening, guys? Dan Debenham here. In this video, we're going to look at aspect ratios. It's something that a lot of people don't really pay that much attention to, and you really should. It has a massive, important part to play in both the look, feel, and the story that you're telling in your video. So with that, the first one we'll look at is 16:9. That's this. Basically, 16:9 is the standard television aspect ratio. I'll stick the sizes up here, 4K and HD. That's basically for you, so you can see what sizes you need to do if you want to do 16:9 in your project. I'll do that for the other aspect ratios as well. But anyway, back to 16:9. 16:9 is basically what most TVs, most computer monitors are basically set in. It's what most video cameras record in, it's what most mobile phones record in, a 16:9 aspect ratio. There are other settings in other things to make them record in a different aspect ratio, but they tend to be 16:9. So if we go to the next aspect ratio, so let's just pull that in a little bit, that's 18:9. Now 18:9 doesn't sound like a great deal different, but actually it's what most new mobile phones, most smartphones come in. Their screens are 18:9. It's a 2:1 ratio. And basically what that means is it's slightly wider than 16:9. So you're getting a little bit of a wider view, but you're also, at the expense, if you're recording 16:9, you end up with those black bars down each side, because 16:9 is not quite wide enough to fill the whole screen, which is why things like YouTube, you can sort of pinch and you can zoom it in and it fills the full screen. And that's because it knows it's a 16:9 video and you've got an 18:9 screen, so you've got a little bit of movement. And effectively, what that does is it just means that when you're putting a video out, if you know people, the majority of people are going to watch it on a mobile phone, and you want them to watch it in a traditional horizontal landscape way, which is basically how video is shot. You shoot it in 18:9, and then they get the full immersive, using every single bit of their screen to be able to watch their video. The next one, if we bring it in even further, so let's just do that a little bit further, we've got 2:35:1. Now 2:35:1 is the classic cinema sort of Hollywood look, very wide, very letterboxed. And these are just the popular ones, don't get me wrong. There are many different variations of how letterboxed you can get. But this is the sort of basic cinema look. And that's what you see when people shoot B-roll. It's what you see when you're watching a film on your TV and you've got the bars top and bottom like we have here. And effectively, it's basically what people would think of as Hollywood when they see it. And effectively, it's really clever, because you can use this to differentiate between one thing and another. I often do when I'm shooting a video. I'll do the vlog portion in 16:9 and then cut to 2:35:1 for the B-roll. So you get a little bit of a different story, and you know in your head straight away, actually this is something different to what I've just been watching. It's part of the same thing, but I'm supposed to think something different about it. And that's what happens. The next one, if we just get rid of those, the next one that we're going to have up here is 4:3. So let's just pull that in a little bit. So 4:3 is basically what the old standard def used to be. So old school TVs were more square rather than elongated like they are now. So we have these widescreen TVs now, but in actual fact, 4:3 is what we all used to watch TV as, me included. Now, this has some great tips really to it in terms of aspect ratios, because you don't have to stick to one particular aspect ratio throughout your entire project. You can use aspect ratios to denote how the viewer should either perceive or feel a particular scene. So as an example, you could use 3 of the 4 that I've just mentioned: 16:9, you could use 2:35:1, and you could use 4:3. And you could use 16:9 for one character, you could use 4:3 for another character, and you could use 2:35:1 for somebody else or something else. And they can all denote something different. So as an example, the 16:9 character could be somebody who lives in the present moment. And so everything that they're in and everything that they're involved in, 16:9 it is. The next character could be 4:3, and that's because they hark back to what their childhood was, or they're always looking in the past, or it always feels like it's in the past. So it's shot 4:3, and that way you instantly know which character you're looking at. And then the 2:35:1 could be like the wide landscapey type stuff. And effectively you've used 3 separate aspect ratios there, but they've all been integral in telling the story, not just the story itself, not just the shot that you took, but also the way it's delivered tells the story, and it tells the viewer what they should think and where they are in that particular universe that you've created. And that's basically the power of aspect ratios. It's absolutely amazing. The next 2 we're going to look at are 2 modern ones, and effectively these are what we would use if we desperately wanted to, if we knew that we were going to put something out to a mobile phone, then we might consider using these, because there are proven reasons why these aspect ratios are good for mobile phones. So the first one is 4:5. So 4:5 is like more of a traditional picture format, and it's great for video for things like Instagram or Facebook. It's basically, when a person looks at a video on a mobile phone, typically they will most likely use their phone in portrait mode. They're not going to flick it around to horizontal, to landscape, so that they can watch your video in the way you intended it to be watched. Chances are they're going to watch it in portrait mode in a tiny little box on Instagram or Facebook. So doing it 4:5 means we get that bigger shot, and we get more of their screen filled, even though it's within another app. And that then makes your video easier to watch, and it's delivered in a way that the consumer wants to watch it. The same with the next one, which is 9:16, which is the entire opposite of 16:9. It's just basically the portrait version of 16:9. And that's great for things like TikTok. We see that all the time on TikTok. It's just you're holding your phone and you're scrolling up. You don't scroll across, so you scroll up. So basically, if you're doing a TikTok video, it needs to be 9:16 in order to be able to fully utilize the whole screen. And again, you could probably go down the route and say, well, I could do it in 18:9 or whatever, but you might end up with bars down either side or whatever. Effectively, you want to use those aspect ratios that are going to deliver the product or your video and your story in the best light possible for the medium that they're going to be watching it on. And 4:5 and 9:16 are absolutely amazing for things like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, that kind of stuff. And so basically that is where we're at with it. These are the 6 aspect ratios that you should really know. Whether you use them or not is entirely up to you. I hope you do. And it just gives you the ability to tell your story in a slightly different way, and it also gives you the ability, in theory, to meet as many people as possible and get your story to as many people as possible by using just an aspect ratio, rather than worrying about whether you've shot it in 4K or 1080 or whatever that may be. Also on 4K and 1080, you've got to understand as well and remember that the vast majority of people that are watching your video are probably watching it at 1080, because YouTube sort of defaults to the lowest. Even if you've got a 4K screen, you still don't get it immediately at 4K, even with a super fast internet. So again, don't worry too much, don't concern too much about and fret too much about, oh my god, it's in 1080, or oh no, it's in 4K or 6K or 8K or 2.7K. Think about the story rather than what you're trying to get technically from your video. So I hope that was useful, and I hope you did find it, that there could be some use for it for you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!